The nerd of all football nerds, my guy Ultra, said, "Hey Mitch, there's a video you have to react to." And whenever Ultra says that, you know it's going to be good. So in this video, I'm reacting to First Things First, determining whether or not the New York Jets are a Super Bowl contender. Because if you haven't heard, Aaron Rodgers has answered the critics. He believes that the Jets can win the Super Bowl in 2024. And this is actually quite a meta video because it's the First Things First panel reacting to a Super Bowl bubble from Colin Cowherd. And we know how much we love Uncle Colin on this channel. Oh boy, we love Uncle Colin, right? But not only are they reacting to Colin Cowherd's Super Bowl bubble, but Nick Wright, Greg Jennings, and the rest of them are going to provide their own Super Bowl bubble for 2024. So not only is it one Super Bowl bubble, but it's like 5 Super Bowl bubbles. Let's have some fun, man. Gronk, spike the like button if you're still with me. Subscribe for more NFL reaction videos just like this. And shout out to Ultra for this video because I wouldn't have found it without him. Let's go, guys. Let me know in the comments which teams belong in your Super Bowl bubble. Now, let's react. Okay, first things first. Let's find out if you shine on the bottom line.
Segment from Colin, to be honest with you. It's Colin's Super Bowl bubble that he did today. In the middle there are, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Make sure the
8.
audience knows who we're talking about.
Colin Cowherd?
Yeah, Colin Cowherd.
Why? Who?
I just want to make sure the audience knows.
Why would they not know who Colin Cowherd is, bro? I know Nick Wright's playing around, but first things first here. Ha! Funny, I used the show name. Haven't we already established that Colin Cowherd hates the 49ers? Why is the 49ers right in the middle of his Super Bowl bubble when he power ranked them like outside the top 5? He doesn't have Kyle Shanahan in the top 5 coaches. He doesn't have Brock Purdy in the top 10 quarterbacks. He doesn't think they're very good. He thinks the Rams are going to win the division. Can someone please make me understand why the 49ers, based on Colin Cowherd's logic, which if you guys have not been following the reaction series, we've been heavily reacting to Colin Cowherd's content because it's phenomenal and we love it. And it's very controversial. Thank you, Colin. And it gives us just so much to talk about. And the 49ers have consistently been absolutely dosed in hater juice. So I don't understand why they're like right in the middle of the Super Bowl bubble. That's the first thing I noticed. Okay, first things first. Let's get back to it.
Oh, Colin Cowherd is world famous. So those are the bubble in the middle, and then
Why does Colin have the Niners dead center middle and not the two-time defending champs?
Doesn't go.
No, but I do think middle means something.
Middle does mean something, I thought, because I thought it was like the closer you get to the middle is the team that is like the true favorite, like the real deal Holyfield. Like that's what I thought. But I guess I could be mistaken. And obviously Nick Wright, the homer that he is for the Chiefs, he wants the Chiefs in the middle. A show with me and Nick Wright would be pretty good. I'm just going to throw that out there if anyone has any ideas, because I think we would have a lot of difference in opinion. But anyways, let's just continue.
Like a bullseye.
It's kind of like left or right on pyramids.
Yeah, Nick's nucleus. We should have stole it. We should have.
Oh, sorry. In any event, that's Colin's bubble, so we stole it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our own Aaron Rodgers-esque 8 to 12 teams.
Aaron Rodgers-esque 8 to 12 teams. He said the Jets are one of the 8 to 12 teams that can win the Super Bowl. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree with Aaron Rodgers.
We're going to start with Greg Jennings. Greg, let's see.
Greg Jennings, Aaron Rodgers' former teammate, with his Super Bowl bubble. Let's see. So first of all, let's just talk about Colin's before we get to Greg. All right, because I didn't see Colin's video. So we have the Bengals, the Texans, and the Jets on the outside looking in. First things first here. I'm actually not doing that on purpose. The Houston Texans should be in the bubble. I might be picking the Houston Texans to win the whole damn Super Bowl. I don't care what you tell me. What do they not have? What do the Texans not have other than brand power that makes you believe that they can win the whole thing? They have the young, up-and-coming, elite signal caller, Stroud. They have the young, awesome head coach that everybody loves, D'Amico Ryans. They have a young play caller on the rise, entering year 2. In Slowick. They have a great pass rush, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Danico Autry. They improved their linebacking core. I like their linebackers, Christian Harris, Aziz Al-Shair. They have a young safety, Jalen Petrie, a veteran safety, Jimmy Ward, potentially a shutdown corner in Derek Stingley, a trio of dynamic receivers, a reliable, borderline Pro Bowl level Dalton Schultz at tight end, Joe Mixon at running back. What does this team not have? An all-pro caliber left tackle, a Super Bowl champion experience at right guard, Shaq Mason. What do they not have? If their offensive line slightly improves and stays healthy, if their secondary slightly improves and stays healthy, this team's as good as any team. This team's as talented as any team. They should be in that circle, that bubble. They should be in there. The Cincinnati Bengals should be in the bubble. Now, if you assume that Joe Burrow is healthy, Slim Shady, Cody Rhodes, Buzzcut Burrow, I don't know what they're calling him, but Burrow should be in the bubble. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, a healthy, beastly Brown duo at offensive line on the tackle spots. Best offensive line Burrow's ever had. Deep tight end trio, I would call it. I feel like the Bengals offense is going to be maybe the most dynamic they've ever had with Joe Burrow, with the plethora of receiver talent, with a healthy and hungry Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. I'm excited for Chase Brown. The defense, I think, is not getting the love it deserves. At safety with Von Bell and Geno Stone. At corner, I think Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton. Hilton made my top 32. Taylor-Britt was darn close. Pass rush is pretty nasty and pretty deep this year. Run defense is a little bit of a potential question mark, but I feel like they'll figure it out. Big Lou is a good coach. They'll figure it out. Wilson and Pratt are good at linebacker. Like every layer, every level, this team has cohesion. This team has experience. This team's been to the dance. This team is ready. It could be their moment. It could be their time, right? So they should be in the bubble. The Packers, I would say like the Packers probably are in the bubble, if not just touching the edge. They're right in that conversation. The Rams, I'd have outside the bubble if I were to replace, one of the teams. Let's say I put the Rams outside the bubble. I just think they need so much to go right with their defense. Personally, I do think Stafford and McVay give you a chance, and I think Puka Nacua is awesome, and I like the offensive line. I think it's a borderline top 10 unit. I think they're going to run the ball as well as anybody in football. But the defense, I do think, especially up front, is a huge question mark post Aaron Donald. I just don't know if they're dynamic enough, good enough on defense this year. The Eagles, I think you could definitely justify them being in the bubble given the talent they have. They've been to the Super Bowl before, the receivers they have, the O-line, the D-line that they have, Jalen Hurts, Shane Steichen with Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore is a good mix-up at coordinator. So I understand that one. The Bills have Josh Allen. They've been in the dance in terms of the playoffs for 4 or 5 straight years. They've won the division 4 straight years. They're definitely, I think, maybe even being a little bit underrated. Maybe they've made necessary improvements on offense. I feel like they're going to run the ball well. Play action is going to be a new thing for them. Multi-tight end usage, power running. I think they're going to find an identity that suits them and makes them, a pretty interesting dimension to the AFC playoffs. The Chiefs obviously deserve to be there. There's no question. The Ravens, I think, could take a step back here. But again, you can't not put Lamar, Mahomes, Allen, those guys. And then again, Joe Burrow, those guys should be in the bubble just because those guys are that good. When they're playing, they're in contention to win the whole thing. Then you've got the Lions, who I definitely think deserves to be there. They've only improved since they went to the NFC Championship last year. The secondary is stronger. The D-line is more nasty with DJ Reader, right? Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold at corner. They added enough pieces there for me to convince, that I'm thinking they're going to be better. Then offensively, the O-line is the best in football. They've got a sweet young Sam Laporta at tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to go off this year. David Montgomery is still there. Jameson Williams could take a step forward. Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got all the pieces, all the weapons. The quarterback, Jared Goff, is very steady. I love the coaching staff. So, yeah, the Lions definitely deserve to be there. So I'm not really against anything here other than I feel like the Bengals and the Texans should be in. I think the Rams should be out. If I were to include one more team to be out of that mix, I'd probably go the Eagles or the Packers. And if I had to decide, it would probably be the Eagles. But I don't know, man. That could go either way. The Jets, I agree, are in the outside looking in just because they have so much that has to go right. Rodgers has to be healthy. The O-line has to stay healthy. The O-line has to be able to work together and play well. We've never seen it before. The offensive coordinating and the play calling has to be right. We haven't seen that jive with Aaron Rodgers in this offense. The defense has to stay healthy. Robert Saleh has to learn how to call timeouts. There's so much that has to go right for them, but they do have a lot of potential and a lot of upside, which means it could definitely happen. So, it could happen. So I mostly agree with Colin here. Let's see how the guys kind of mix it up.
Super Bowl bubble with your 8 teams and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get a little spicy.
Again, middle.
That's
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Go ahead.
It's just
That's
the
fine.
graphic team. You see my teams. I got the Lions, Jets. Yes, I have the Jets. I'm buying into the hype. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Bengals, the Green Bay Packers, who I absolutely love. Obviously, the Texans, who I love. Got the 49ers. We'll breeze right over the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then my outer, got the Baltimore Ravens, got the Dallas Cowboys, and these two on the left. I'm telling you, I'm pretty high on the Bears. If Caleb Williams can be a guy.
Drunk?
I'm drunk.
The Bears can be a scary team and have a shot.
That's correct. That's a good.
Is he drunk? Let's see. So the Bengals in the middle is really interesting. Again, I don't know if that has any sort of preference to the whole bubble idea or concept. I thought it always did. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. The Bengals in the middle is interesting. Again, he has the Jets inside instead of outside. He has the Texans inside instead of outside. It almost appears like he has less teams in the bubble, but that might just be the Jets logo. I'm not exactly sure. The Ravens outside is pretty interesting. That is the first mainstream person maybe that I've ever heard put the Ravens kind of on an outside looking in sort of idea. Again, I even would include that. You guys have heard how negative I am with the Ravens, on how down I am with the Ravens. I think they're going to take a step back this year. And I think they could, maybe be a wild card, right? But again, that's probably still being in the bubble in terms of having Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh and a good defense. That's enough for me to remain in the bubble, but I don't dislike that take whatsoever, having the Ravens. I think a lot of people are going to say that's outrageous, but I personally don't hate that at all. The Packers, the Lions, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Niners, we discussed all those. I definitely feel like most of those deserve to be in there. Maybe he's playing the Aaron Rodgers card with the Jets. Again, guys, the Jets, are they a Super Bowl threat? Yes. Because if you really think about it, if the Jets get this thing honed in, if they can get to the playoffs, they've got a dangerous defense. Their defense can stop and slow down anybody. And if Aaron Rodgers is playing well, their offensive line to that point has played well enough, they can protect Rodgers. He can make a few throws in the game. He won't turn it over. He'll control the game, dictate the pace of play. They'll run the ball with Breece Hall. There's a formula there where they could upset the Chiefs. There's a formula there where that kind of makes them a team that could be dangerous to play on the road with a good defense, a strong offensive line, a good running game, right? That's a team that maybe could play in all elements, right? Outside cold weather where Rodgers has been pretty crisp throughout his career, right? Snow, he's dealt with that at Lambeau and Green Bay, whether it be whatever, the windy conditions, he's dealt with that. So to me, it's a team that could win in any environment. They've got a good defense, right? So they could slow down Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or maybe even CJ Stroud or any of these matchups. I feel like they could match up. It wouldn't be too tough for them. So they would be in any game. So it's a matter of them really getting to the dance. If they get to the playoffs, that makes them very viable. But they have to be able to survive a primetime heavy schedule with a lot of marquee games and a lot of marquee opponents. They have to come together with their chemistry on both sides of the ball. So yeah, the Jets are interesting no matter where you put them. I wouldn't have the Bears in this conversation. I think there's a chance that they make the playoffs. I think there's a chance that they sneak into the wild card if Caleb Williams is a good, productive young quarterback who protects the ball well enough and makes big plays. But I definitely am not a huge believer in Matt Eberflus. I feel like the coaching staff is probably below average overall. The O-line still has its questions. The D-line still has its questions. I love the receiving core. I think the offense has tons of weapons. I think the offensive line has upside. I think the defense, if it could play like it did over the last half, sure, those things could come together and the Bears could ultimately be a 9-win, 10-win, 11-win wild card team. But at the end of the day, they play in the NFC North. The Vikings are no slouch. The Lions and Packers are looked at as Super Bowl caliber teams, given these graphics. It's going to be tough for the Bears. The Browns, if Deshaun Watson can figure it out, there's always a chance for them. But honestly, is that ever going to happen? I'm not so sure. I'm not sold. I do like the defensive coordinator and Schwartz. I do like the offensive coordinator / head coach, Kevin Stefanski. I do like the O-line. I do like the D-line. I do love the secondary. I think there's enough pieces on offense if Watson elevates his level of play, Mari Cooper, David Njoku, etc., to make that happen. But I would definitely not have them in the Super Bowl bubble just because they're definitely not a favorite to win the thing. They're definitely not a favorite in my mind to even make the playoffs, really. They definitely can make the playoffs, right? I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying, if you were to pick the top 5 teams that you think would make the AFC playoffs, the Browns are probably not in that mix. They're probably right after that mix, 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range, right? So the Browns definitely outside. That makes sense if you're going to put them anywhere. The Cowboys, I don't see in this conversation just because the O-line is potentially a disaster at left and right tackle, center as well. The weaponry, I think, is a little bit underwhelming compared to years past. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, they don't have a lot to rely on. Maybe Jake Ferguson takes another step forward. The running game, the running back position in general is less talented than in recent past. The defense is good, but going through a scheme change. So you kind of wonder about Dallas. Is there any team that they haven't brought up yet that I kind of believe deserves to be mentioned? Miami hasn't been mentioned yet. That's kind of interesting. They certainly have talent to be mentioned in this conversation. The Steelers have not been mentioned yet. They have an awesome defense, a great head coach. The Colts, a lot of upside. Jacksonville hasn't been mentioned. In the NFC side, none of the NFC South teams have been mentioned, which is interesting. The Seahawks haven't been mentioned, so just keep looking out for that. The Rams are not even in this graphic here, which I think is interesting. I definitely have the Rams over the Cowboys in that NFC mix.
Explain the Browns.
The Browns, Deshaun Watson started to get a little hot.
No, he's not.
He started to get a little hot, then he got injured. They were looking
Bro said he did? Yeah, no, he didn't. I don't remember that.
good. If he can rekindle a little bit of that and build on it.
So you don't have any AFC. Oh, you have the Jets.
I have the Jets.
No Bills or Dolphins.
No Bills, no Dolphins.
Just thank you. I just noticed he didn't have the Bills in the entire graphic. So far, I like Colin's graphic a lot more than Greg's. No Bills, no Rams in the graphic. No. Yeah. I don't know, man.
I'm trying to see.
Do you think that Caleb Williams can win the Super Bowl as a rookie?
With the team that they have around him right now, The defense, I love their defense.
No. You can't win the Super Bowl as a rookie. No.
Offensively,
See, that's the thing, right? This is Super Bowl bubble. This is not playoff bubble. This is Super Bowl bubble, right? Teams that could actually, in your mind, somehow, some way, win the Super Bowl. You got Caleb Williams over Josh Allen, bro.
He got a ton of weapons. If he can strike, it's kind of like...
Come on, Greg Jennings. Fix that broken leg, bro.
That CJ Stroud last year model. Yeah, we'll see.
But I don't think the Texans could have won this.
They're my fringe.
I know, but even for fringe, they're on my fringe. Even as suppose Caleb was great, it's hard for me to believe that when you go up against a seasoned defensive coordinator with 2 weeks to prepare just the Super Bowl, and you would have had 19 games.
Whoa. This guy's talking about them actually getting to the Super Bowl. Never mind all the seasoned coordinators he's going to have to face in the regular season. So assuming he got to that point, I guess it could happen. But, man, you're getting ahead of yourself there.
To watch a rookie that you can't expose some flaws in a rookie QB.
But literally 2 years ago, you thought it was, I'm not saying you were picking it, you thought it was possible a rookie quarterback was going to win the Super Bowl and Brock Purdy. Because the team was like they were in the going into that weekend's NFC title game, you weren't like the Niners are eliminated.
I guess that's a good point. Brock Purdy was a rookie, right? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a little bit different, though. He wasn't the first overall pick. He was literally the last pick, and he was on the best roster in the league with arguably the best coach in the league. The Bears don't have any of that, right? The Bears don't have the best scheme in the league, the best coach in the league, the best left tackle in the league, the best set of weapons in the league, one of the best defenses in the league, right? It's not like he's a passenger. And I'm not exactly trying to say Brock Purdy is, especially currently, but obviously Brock Purdy was not the main reason they were in that game or potentially going to make the Super Bowl if he were to stay healthy in that game. He was simply the guy that was taking them to that game because he was the right guy for the moment, right? Like, to me, Brock Purdy almost doesn't count because it's such an outrageous story. It's closer to like Tom Brady and what happened with him against the Rams in his second season, right? He was a 6th round pick thrusted into action. It was kind of like what happened to Brock Purdy. Although Brady didn't get eliminated for the Super Bowl in terms of injury, or the Patriots were still able to survive the AFC Championship. But it is similar in that regard. I would say that, yeah, it is a very hard comp to comp the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, to the first overall pick. That's just me, though.
By the way, and to be fair, I don't even think Wildes picked the Niners in that game. But I'm saying, like, nobody was saying in that moment, the Niners are...
I also don't think many people would have picked the Niners to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because the Chiefs beat them in the regular season. And I think a lot of people would have fairly suggested that even if the Niners might have been actually better last year than they were in 2023, especially on defense, that just having Brock Purdy as a rookie against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, year 2, you could actually believe it because we've seen so many games of Brock Purdy going out there and performing. So, like, 2022 is a little bit different. I still don't think people would have picked them.
Out because they have a rookie quarterback. Nobody,
what was their big weakness?
The Niners?
Yeah.
I think quarterback.
Okay.
Well, but that's not why they didn't win the Super Bowl. I mean, no, what happened to them? I mean, they would have lost to the Chiefs anyway, but in that game, he got hurt. But I also...
Rookie shoulder.
The Chiefs could have easily won the Super Bowl the first year Mahomes started. Like, would you feel the Bears...
Yeah, but again, Mahomes wasn't a rookie. See, like, technically, right, Brady was a rookie, technically, right, when they won the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger won the Super Bowl, I believe, in his second year and played like half the year in the first year. I think Russell Wilson was second-year quarterback when he won the Super Bowl. A lot of second-year quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl, including Mahomes, but not a lot of rookies, if any rookies, have won the Super Bowl. So different argument. I know that it technically their rookie season, but to me, it doesn't really count. Also, the Chiefs lost fair and square. So,
But I'm talking about true rookie.
Right, but you really think there's but your analysis of like 19 weeks of film, all that, you think there's a big difference? Like, so if Caleb sat all year, never played,
could he win next year?
And then next year you'd be okay with this?
Yeah, I'd feel a little bit better.
Okay.
I agree, actually. Weirdly, I would feel a little bit better only because of history. I'd feel a little bit better because of history. Because the track record is on my side in terms of second-year quarterbacks, no matter if they played in the year one or not, actually got the job done. Year one quarterbacks, for whatever reason, maybe it's like the long season, the combine, the draft, all that wear and tear, they seem to actually slow down near the end of the year. Not the case, in terms of second-year guys. And also just having that year of the NFL experience does help these guys from a maturity standpoint.
All right.
Yeah, brand new walking into. Yes.
I mean,
I think it's
never
insulting
happened.
to defensive. Yeah, if it's never happened, I mean, it feels like 100% right.
I just also feel like, just for the Bears' sake, I just don't think they're that close. I think a lot of people are just overrating them because of Caleb Williams. I think that their division is way too difficult for that to possibly happen.
I mean, okay. I mean, Big Ben, his first year got the AFC title.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Yeah, close.
Yeah, well, they're on the bubble. I'm defending Greg. I think Greg's right. Now, I think a lot of this other stuff's crazy, but I think Greg's right.
All right, now it's your turn to go.
It's my turn? Okay.
I like the Browns, by the way. But
all right, so why are the Bengals in the middle of mine?
hey, buddy.
All right, Nick put... Obviously, I don't think he meant to put the Bengals, obviously, by his reaction in the middle of the graphic. It's probably the Chiefs for him, but let's see what he's got. So he's got the Bears in his bubble, which, again, outrageous. Don't think they have a chance to win the Super Bowl, like, at all. Could they make the playoffs? Yes. Could they win a playoff game? Maybe. I don't see how they're even close to the Packers, the Lions, the Niners. I'd pick the Rams in a playoff setting over them. I'd pick the Eagles in a playoff setting over them. Like, to me, like, the Bears hype is just crazy. I know Nick is like on the train or whatever, but it is what it is. The Bills, yes, we talked about that. The Texans, I'm glad to see that people like the Texans and understand what makes them so good. The Rams, again, I think I'm not sold on the defense, right? I just am not. They don't have enough studs for me on that side of the ball. The 49ers, yes, obviously. The Bengals, I like that they're included, although they wouldn't be in the middle, apparently. The Lions and the Chiefs, fair. Okay, Jacksonville on the outside, that's a new inclusion. So Jacksonville, I think actually I would probably have them in terms of winning the Super Bowl over the Bears. And the reason for that is Trevor Lawrence has more experience, right? Both first overall picks, but more experience. He's actually been in the playoffs, has a comeback win in the playoffs. Last year, he got injured. The season was derailed because of it. If the O-line can improve and the defense can improve, they've got receiving talent. Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas could be that big jolt to their offense. Christian Kirk is back, right? There's reason to believe Travis Etienne. Doug Peterson has actually won a Super Bowl. Another reason to believe in the team. The defense could potentially get better with the new coaching. So I think Jacksonville is actually kind of a sneaky dark horse type of caliber team, which I think belongs on the outside of the Super Bowl bubble. That's fair. The other teams have already been discussed, so there's not a lot to really mention here. Other than the Packers being on the outside instead of the inside, which is interesting. I think some people view Jordan Love as still needing more time to see what he's made of. The kind of, maybe some people view it as a fluky second half of the season compared to the first half of the season. But when I think about it, this is a team that is very realistic to take a huge leap this year. We've seen so many of these type of teams, as a young football team, 1 year, then ascend the next year with a lot of these players just growing together, getting better together, learning together, right? Experience things together, So what if we just don't foresee the potential breakouts of certain Packer players, like on defense with, let's say, Lucas Van Ness, or on offense with like Christian Watson, Maybe we just don't foresee what's about to happen with the Packers, and it is a little bit more bold, right? I could see how if you're looking at the Packers for what they were last year, it's a far cry. It's a reach to include them as a Super Bowl team. But if you're projecting what could potentially happen with this team, given Jordan Love takes a small step forward, the O-line could be a small step better, tight end could be, maybe better in a year or two instead of year one with those guys, right? Maybe Josh Jacobs stays healthy while Aaron Jones was in and out of the lineup. Matt LaFleur has more experience with this offense and his players and the personnel. Jaden Reed has more experience. Christian Watson has more experience. All these guys, right? Defensively, they've got a new coordinator, which could really make them come together as a great unit because we know they have individual talent. So I think the Packers just deserve a little bit more of a optimistic outlook.
Who is setting
Nothing
this
to
up?
do with the middle.
I got to tell you, the bullseye, dead center. What are we talking about? All right. So I thought that, so I have the Bears even closer to the middle. And as you're going to see, I have for a lot of these teams, perceived great quarterback bias. So the Bills are going to be in that center in the bubble.
That's fair. Nick Wright is very heavily leaning into quarterback play, which is fair. I mean, that makes sense. I've already brought that up. That's why the Bills, that's why the Bengals, that's why these teams would be in my bubble. That's why the Texans would be in my bubble, right? Because I believe that these quarterbacks give your team a chance, and I think that's fair. Now, the Ravens are on the outside, which I wonder what he has to say about that.
Because they do, for all his flaws, have clearly a top 5 quarterback. The Texans have clearly a top 5 quarterback. I shouldn't say clearly a top 5 quarterback. Could have a top 5 quarterback. The Niners.
They clearly have a top 5 quarterback. I'm going to say that clearly.
Niners have the best 2 through 53 roster in the NFL. The Rams, I think, are way underrated. Now, the loss of Aaron Donald's enormous.
Are they way underrated? I could see they're maybe underrated by some people. But way underrated? I don't know. You guys let me know about that one. The Rams, way underrated? Not on this channel. I think we were pretty realistic with the Rams.
Obviously, but I love their draft, and I love what they showed last year after the rough start. The Bengals are getting a great quarterback back. And the Chiefs and Lions, it speaks for themselves. And the Bears were a 7-win team last year that once they added Montez Sweat, were a good defense. They then add Rome Odunze, add...
Yeah, but who did they play?
Keenan Allen. On the outside of the bubble is the Cowboys and the Ravens, out of respect for what they've been over the last few seasons. The Packers for what they...
So no real comment on why the Ravens are outside. So this is, again, another Ravens kind of down on the Ravens approach. Interesting. Maybe it's catching a little bit of steam. Maybe people are actually starting to read the R lads on the offensive line.
We're building in the final half of last year. And again, great quarterback bias. Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it's on the board. Trevor has the year that I thought he was going to have last year, and I think he was en route to having before he got hurt. So to me, there is ties go to teams with excellent quarterbacks, and so
I guess Jordan Love is not one of those yet. Fair.
For me, the teams that maybe surprise people that I don't have on there,
but again, Lamar,
are the Jets and the Eagles. And I just don't trust the I don't trust the coaching staff of either of those teams.
That's interesting. I kind of trust Vic Fangio, and I kind of trust Kellen Moore. The Jets, I understand. Don't get me wrong. The Jets, I understand.
And I have questions about the quarterback of both of those teams. Oof. So that's...
Yeah, but... I don't know. I know he loves Trevor Lawrence, the prince that was promised. But do we have more questions about Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts? Do we have more questions about Caleb Williams or Aaron Rodgers? You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at.
I don't feel like his addition adds up
for those.
So your Jags, you're that high on Trevor that Trevor can get it done?
Well, I'm as high on Trevor as like I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great player. I think Trevor Lawrence...
I only ask...
My question is when?
This because you're basing most of yours around the quarterback.
Yeah.
mine is not just solely based on the quarterback. It's like the team. So, like, even with the Jets, I'm not at all saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to just be the MVP and he's going to have a fantastic year. What I'm saying is,
thank you, Greg. I think you're accurate on this. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not the reason that you're actually banking on the Jets. Like,
you love their roster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love their roster, and he's going to be good enough to help them get over that hump. The Jags?
Yeah, so I know that I am in the minority here. But to me, Trevor's career makes total sense.
it's been about as good as Mac Jones' career.
Which is star collegiate player, thrown into the fire year one
CJ Stroud was pretty good.
for a train wreck of an organization, has a rough year one that at the end shows flashes. By the end of year two, looks like a no doubt already top 10 quarterback.
I had him in the top 10 after year two. I will admit that. But year three, even if that team makes the playoffs, I still don't think we're talking about Trevor as living up to expectations.
Executes one of the greatest comebacks in postseason history.
That was the Chargers, bro. The Chargers.
Loses to the champ. Builds on that momentum the very next year, has his team around Thanksgiving playing for the 1 seed at 8-3 on Monday Night Football, suffers a terrible...
That part of my problem with them, though, is that they did let that slide happen. That slide did happen. And it's got to be more than just Trevor Lawrence getting hurt why that happened, right? Like, can't just be that. No?
Terrible injury, then 2 more terrible injuries, and shockingly, the season fell apart when the guy who'd been carrying them got hurt. That's how I look at Trevor's career. Everyone else looks at it like there was some Freaky Friday situation happening for his whole college career and his second year in the league, and who he was his rookie year and at the end of last year.
I think who he is and has been so far is just inconsistent. Period. I think year one did make some logical sense, and I give him a pass. He was a rookie. He had Urban Meyer. It's a little bit of a disaster. But a lot of rookies have made better than what he made of that situation, period. We've got to put like a little bit on him, but most on the situation. In year two, I think it's also fair to say that he got a really good coach in Doug Peterson. I think he's a really good coach. He won a Super Bowl. And he got a bunch of weapons and they spent a bunch of money. And Trevor Lawrence, they put an offense around him that made him work. Did he look like an all-pro? No. Did he look like a good quarterback at times that could make a lot of big-time throws and was really athletic? Yes. But did he also seem like a guy that maybe was still a little bit young and a little bit of a project at times? Yes. In year number 3, he did look to be more mature and ready for the moment, although he did fall apart. Now, maybe that was only injuries, but at other times you watch that team play and you're kind of like, okay, like, can Trevor ever get to that level of just kind of overcoming everything around him? And to me, he hasn't become that yet. Maybe he will this year, though. That definitely could happen.
Here's who he really is. It's not how I look at it. So, yeah, I think that player could be excellent. He has to prove it, but I still believe in him. So, yeah, that's why they're
Also the highest paid quarterback in the league, so yeah, I think
yeah,
he's
got to have it.
Super Bowl bubble. All right.
Well, the guy whose record he broke, I think, is Justin Herbert, who's not on mine or Greg's.
Yeah, he's not on mine either, I don't think.
Yeah.
All right, so my Super Bowl bubble. Now, you might be saying, there's a lot.
All right, here we go with Wildes. So he's got Tampa. Interesting. I would not include Tampa just because, although I love you, Tampa, I just feel like they just don't have the upside to me. I don't think they have the upside from the quarterback standpoint or the coaching standpoint or the roster standpoint. Like, in no regard. I don't think they really have a good enough pass rush, good enough secondary. Their O-line has questions. Their run game has had questions for seasons. This team doesn't have Tom Brady anymore. Can they make the playoffs? Yes, certainly. Can they win their division? Certainly. Can they win the Super Bowl? Win 3 NFC games or 2 NFC games and win the Super Bowl? Probably not. Even in their best season. right? So he still has the Packers on the outside. Interesting. I would have them in the inside. The Cowboys, I think, are overrated on this one. I would not have them in the inside. Again, questions. I think they're a worse team this year than they've been the last 2 years in terms of overall talent that they have. The Ravens, the Lions, the Bengals, the Texans, the Niners, the Chiefs, the Eagles are all fair. The Browns, again, like, I don't know, man. You don't have the Bills, but you have the Browns. I think you're mistaken, sir. The Dolphins are there on the outside, which is fair. I actually think having the Dolphins on the outside is more logical than Jacksonville. I think it actually probably makes more sense than Cleveland, only because, like, Tua has shown he can play at a really high level at times. Deshaun has not shown that since he got in trouble, right? Like, so... And the Dolphins over the Bears, certainly. The Dolphins over the Bucks, certainly. The Dolphins over the Jags, certainly. I think they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of upside. They have a great coach. They have a quarterback that at times can play really well. They have dynamic pieces that only they have, Tyreek Hill. Right? So there's a reason and a rhyme for it. So this one's not terrible. Again, the Bills not being there and the Cowboys is kind of weird. But anyways.
A lot of changes in there. Well, here's why. Have you ever heard the expression, pretty good quarterbacks who should be ascending win championships? No. What you hear is a phrase that I invented at this point 2 years ago now, Josh. Defense wins championships. Okay. These are some of the best defensive teams, plus Vic Fangio's Eagles. So I gave them a fresh.
And some of the best defensive teams. So you don't have the Jets. You don't have the Steelers. You don't have the Patriots. You don't have... Who else is a top defense in the league? I guess those are the three. Right, he has the Niners. He has the Ravens. I guess you can include the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. The Lions, the Eagles, the Bengals, maybe the Texans. Not considered elite defenses. Kind of a weird argument, but anyways, we'll let them go off.
Start, but I believe in all of these teams' defense plus a little quarterback. Now you might be saying, Kevin, I went to NFL.com and just like you did, and I hit points per game descending, and at number 12 was the Jets. Why aren't the Jets in there? Well, I replaced them with the Eagles. That's why. Because I believe in Vic Fangio, and I'm not.
Wait, is this really just the 12 best defenses minus the Jets?
No, because I added the Dolphins.
I was going to say, what's the Dolphins argument?
I like Mike McDaniel, and I love Tua.
Loves Tua. That's a little...
Love Tua?
You just said your whole thing was about defense.
Yeah, or the number...
Yeah, bro, this guy makes no sense.
Or the number one passing yards, too. Because passing league, too. I'm going to be a Dolphins guy. You know that. I believe in the Browns' defense. I believe in... And then
just say... I don't know. Just don't make that argument. It just doesn't make any sense.
We're all the same. And I added the Bucks in there.
You guys are way too high on the Eagles.
Why? Do you like Vic Fangio? Do you think Vic Fangio?
I don't know, man. The Eagles are so difficult for me because, like Nick says, we're way too high. But they're so talented. They have so much talent. Their O-line is sweet. They've got Saquon Barkley. That excites me. Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. How does that not get you excited? Like, Kellen Moore is more professional than what they had previously. Yeah, the defense could still be a disaster, but the schedule's easy. The division's easy. They're better than the Cowboys. To me, like, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. So that's a start. Like, they could catch fire.
Fangio is good? Of course you do.
No. What do you mean?
You don't like Vic Fangio?
I did 10 years ago.
AJ.
10 years ago is a little bit of an exaggeration.
Hold on, Wildes. No, it's not about being ageist, but the Dolphins couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Well, the players didn't like Vic Fangio.
Well, that matters.
Yeah,
that matters.
It does.
The Philadelphia Eagles had literally one of the worst collapses in NFL history.
Yes.
Don't you dare say supernatural funk.
I'm not going to say supernatural funk.
What are you going to say?
I'm going to say Jalen Hurts was hurt.
Okay,
and he played.
You just gave
He was.
that
just
same
like Trevor Lawrence
thing with
did.
Trevor Lawrence.
He wasn't hurt
That's also true.
enough to not play. He didn't say anything, just like Trevor Lawrence. He fought through injury, but Trevor Lawrence gets...
Fair.
wow, they lost because he's hurt. But Jalen Hurts didn't say a word. It's like, Jalen, are you hurt? He's like, I don't care if I'm hurt, I'm here.
But that's not what happened to them. Their quarterback play didn't fall off the map. They had a horrifying defense for a lot of the year.
They did.
No, wait a second. They had a horrifying defense for most of the year, and then an unspeakably, unplayably bad defense by the end of it, and then we saw them in a playoff game. The only team I've ever seen in my life in a playoff game, it's like, oh wait, they don't want to be there.
Yeah,
they quit immediately. Then
Yeah, that's true.
like I said, don't say supernatural funk. And no one has explained to me why that's going to be fixed. No one has explained it.
Okay, I'll explain it. So the reason it could be fixed, they added youth to the secondary. Cooper DeJean is a legit stud. Quinyon Mitchell was the best corner in the draft. Those are two pieces. James Bradbury being removed from the football field, allowing 10 touchdowns last year will help. Avonte Maddox being back will help. They did add some linebackers, although I'm not a huge fan. I still think that's a flaw in the defense. But if that's the only flaw, right? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was signed. He wasn't on the team last year. So that's good. And defensive line-wise, they're younger. Bryce Huff is there instead of Hassan Reddick. And, Jalen Carter could take another step forward. I'm not exactly as convinced that they're as dominant on the D-line as they've been previously. But younger personnel, faster personnel, more athletic, better coaching, all those things I think add up to at least a competent defense. I'm not going to call them a good one, but competent would make sense. See, this is the thing where you get yourself trapped. This happens to me a lot, where you want to praise a team and be high on a team, but at the same time, you have to be able to accept the flaws of the team. And this is where you become, well, they're good, but they're not great. And that's where you start to nitpick teams. That's why people think I hate teams, because I oftentimes will talk really highly about a team, let's say Cleveland, and I'll say, wow, I love their offensive line, and I love Nick Chubb, and I love the defense. And then there's small things about the team that I'll pick apart, right? So that's where people get this misconception of what I actually think of teams. And this is kind of what Nick Wright is talking about. They did a segment the other day where they were negative about the Eagles, but now they're putting them in the conversation of being in the Super Bowl window. And it's because at that time they were talking about the negatives, and now they're talking about the positives, and the positives outweigh the negatives, but there are negatives and they're not perfect, and etc. So that's the way NFL analysis works. And I'm just going to end it there. You guys let me know what you thought of this video and the reaction. That is the Super Bowl bubble. Let me know yours in the comments. And hey, let's do it. If we get 100 likes on this video, I'll provide my very own Super Bowl bubble from the Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch. Deuces.